3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome into Press Box Live. I'm Stan the Fan Charles, along with Gary Stein. And our guest, who we're going to talk to in about 45 seconds, is one of the best sports writers this town has ever had. He covered the Orioles for years for the Baltimore Sun, and he now covers the Baltimore Ravens for The Athletic after several years of covering the Ravens for the Baltimore Sun. He is Jeff Zrebiec. But right now, I have to tell you about one of the best restaurants around town, and that is the Costas Inn. Over 50 years, they've celebrated an anniversary at the Costas Inn, located at 4100 North Point Boulevard. They are just simply the best place around for steamed crabs and a whole host of other things. They also do an incredible curbside job. If you order your food online, go to CostasInn.com, order your food online, pay for it online, and then when you pick it up, you don't even have to get out of your car. They'll bring it to you. But crab season is near. Don't forget the Costas Inn. Make your reservations at 410-477-1975. Joining us now, as promised, is the very fine beat writer of the Baltimore Ravens for theathletic.com, and that is Jeff Zrebiec. Jeff, how are you, my friend?
Good. How you guys doing?
I'm doing great.
Good, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff, obviously we want to talk a tiny bit about Lamar Jackson tonight. But
I figured.
I just want to go backwards a little bit. You've been covering this negotiation. I think it's about 16 or 17 months that they've been trying to get
He's freezing
this
up.
done. At what point did Jeff Zrebiec sort of say, I'm freezing up?
I got you, Stan.
Okay. At what point did you say to either the guys in the press room or to your wife, I don't think this thing's going to get done. This is heading in the wrong direction?
I thought last off season, we remember at the owners' meetings last year, Steve Bisciotti made clear we're going to be ready when he's ready. Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh had said similar. The ball's in Lamar's court. We're ready to talk. We're ready to pay him top of the market type quarterback money. And they all said at that point, Lamar really wasn't, in position where he wanted to negotiate. And then Lamar showed up a couple days before training camp, and he changed his stance. He told team officials, okay, I'm ready to do this. So I thought they would get a deal done. They had about 4 or 5 weeks there, or 5 weeks or whatever over the summer before they sort of ended talks there late in training camp so we could focus on, the season. And once they did get it done there, I'm like, eesh, I don't know. This is going to be a lot tougher than I thought. This is going to be a challenge. But I figured Lamar would go out and have a monster year. They'd win a couple playoff games, and the Ravens would open the wallet and they'd get this done. But obviously last year didn't go as anybody had planned. And now I'm wondering if we're going to be in the exact same spot next year. That's the scary part.
Jeff, let me ask you this. I've got so many questions, and I'm just hoping that you could dispel stuff or give us truth on stuff according to what you know, etc. According to what you know, is it a fact that Lamar is asking for a fully guaranteed contract? Is that a fact?
I don't think that's a fact. I mean, at some point, I think he wanted that. What seems to be a fact, Gary, is he wants more total guaranteed money than Deshaun Watson got. So that's $230 million. So I think that's the bigger problem right now than a team saying we will fully guarantee every dollar of that deal. But again, as you said, Lamar doesn't have anyone talking for him right now. You hear stuff, and so to say officially what exactly is important to him, what's the one thing he needs, that's really hard to do. But the sense around being around the owners' meetings this week is it's not necessarily the full guarantee, it's the amount of guarantees that's been the major issue.
So let me ask you another question on that. Again, fact or fiction, dispel it, whatever. When the Ravens actually do talk to Lamar about a contract, or when they have talked to Lamar about a contract, is it only Lamar that's in that room, or is somebody else in that room with him?
No, it's Lamar. They would do it in Eric DeCosta's office, or just be Eric and Lamar. But kind of the challenge is, I don't think the Ravens have a full comprehension of what happens once Eric and Lamar end that negotiating session. And Lamar has the most recent offer and the most recent information. Who does he go back then and tell? I'm sure he shares it with his mom, who handles his business matters and all that. The sense is the NFLPA is helping him as well. But he obviously has a really tight inner circle. And I don't know if it's fully known, like at least outside the really small Lamar camp, who exactly he's leaning on most. As I said, obviously his mom's involved. The NFLPA has been involved. Is there anybody else? Is this Ken Francis business partner have a say in it? I just don't know beyond the couple particulars there.
Gotcha. Stan?
Jeff, I'd like to know, I had somebody, and I'm not saying he's in, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
You guys can hear me?
Yeah.
I apologize. We're having some technical difficulties. A friend of mine who's a lawyer, not involved as an agent or anything like that, but he knows somebody that knew somebody and said that the NFLPA has sort of been working on Lamar. They almost see him as a Kurt Flood of football. Have you heard that? And is there anything to that?
Yeah.
He now thinks, hey, it's not just about me. It's about the larger, my brothers, that type of thing.
Oh yeah, I've heard that, Stan. I absolutely have heard that, including Kurt Flood and the desire of the NFLPA and its leaders to get rid of the franchise tag and have Lamar be the guy that winds up doing that. I definitely think, and one of the things I think, we talk so much about Lamar not having an agent. And I definitely think one of the hardest parts about this is, there is a tremendous amount of pressure on Lamar to get a really good deal. And it just feels like it's not just the pressure to get a really good deal for himself and his family. It does feel like, in a sense, he's shouldering a little bit of the burden of trying to help out his quarterbacks behind him. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts. If Lamar gets a fully guaranteed deal, they're going to keep falling in line. And now it's no longer a one deal, one Watson deal aberration. When Lamar gets it, it becomes a trend that surely will lead to others. So I haven't talked to Lamar directly about it, but I do sense something like that would matter to him. Right. And I'm sure, DeMaurice Smith, the head of the NFLPA, has said it on the record in an interview about Lamar needs to be the next guy to get it. And then, the other guys behind him will get it. So there's no question, Stan, that's sort of the pressure on Lamar Jackson. And that's just another dimension to these talks. How much is NFLPA putting heat on him, or how much? I don't know. I sense they were more involved early than they've been lately. That's just the sense I get in the talks. But there's no question that they're watching this closely, and all the other quarterbacks are going to get a deal in short order here in the coming, weeks or months or year. The three big ones, obviously, Burrow, Herbert, and Hurts, they all have agents, right? They all have agents who are going to, execute this deal and do the talks. Lamar doesn't, and he's leaning on NFLPA a little. So that explains why they've sort of been active and really taken a great interest in all this.
One other aspect of this, though, the breaking of the franchise the franchise tag, that is something that has to be collectively bargained. As of right now, the franchise tag exists, whether Lamar gets all guaranteed or not. That's not going away until it's negotiated away.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yes, that's absolutely true.
I had an NFL agent tell me that. Okay.
Jeff, let me back up for a minute here. we're like taking it as a given, like Lamar doesn't have an agent. Okay, let's think about that for a minute. Why doesn't Lamar have an agent?
He's never directly answered that in depth about why. And let's be honest, Gary, the rookie contract that he signed, you don't need an agent necessarily to do a rookie deal, right? But this contract certainly is where an agent comes in handy. And, with marketing opportunities and all that other stuff is where an agent would really come in handy. Why? I don't know, but everything about Lamar Jackson since he's been at Louisville and even going back to a little high school suggests that his mother believes in keeping people at arm's length and just keeping a very close inner circle around Lamar, not letting a ton of people that they don't trust in, not allowing other people to benefit off Lamar from a financial perspective. And that trend seemingly continues in terms of not wanting to kind of add an agent into the mix here. They're very protective of him, who's around him, who knows his business, intensely protective. So when you look at why he doesn't have an agent, that's probably the best explanation I could give in that he really never has answered it in depth about why he decided to go that way.
I just want to throw in so our viewers know that an agent gets on a contract. Let's say this was a $250 million contract. The agent's not getting 10%, 15%. He gets 3%. That's regular.
Still, that's about $7 million
the NFL with their
it is, guys, but you talk to different people around the league, and I bet you they could get an agent to do it for 0.5 or 1%.
Yeah,
because you get this deal done. You're the one that helps Lamar Jackson get the deal he wants. The clients are going to keep rolling in. You're going to be looked at as like, oh, I've talked to agents who would love to be involved with helping Lamar Jackson and would be more than willing to drop that 3%. I mean, so, again, I don't necessarily know that it's a money owing thing, but more of a kind of, like this is our business. We don't want anybody inside our tight inner circle. Yeah, trust thing. There you go, Stan.
So, Jeff, let me try to figure out with you, what are the rights? Okay, now that the situation is this, the Ravens have put the unexclusive or whatever they call it, the non-exclusive,
non-exclusive
franchise tag. So Lamar has the right to go out and shop and go to all the teams and everything, right?
Yeah.
Does Lamar also have the right to not sign the tender?
Yeah, that's negotiated. Lamar negotiates a tender. He only signs a tender if he's, if he's okay with the deal, if he wants that deal. Although he full well knows that he could sign it and Ravens could just say, yes, we'll take that contract. And he's back with the Ravens under the deal he negotiated with the team, the team that signed him to an offer sheet. But, there's nothing saying he has to sign a tender. I mean, from what it looks like, he hasn't even gotten an offer yet. So we're not there. But yeah, he only signs it if it's something he wants to accept. So
here's my point on that. Okay. How long is the tender good for?
What do you mean in terms of if he signs
for instance, I go back to the Le'Veon Bell situation from a few years ago, and you tell me if this is comparable or not. Okay, Le'Veon Bell basically said, "I ain't playing for them," and he waited and waited and waited, and finally he signed a contract. I think it was in week 9 or 10, which gave him the right to collect all the money from the entire year, and he only played in 5 or 6 games because he didn't want to play for them and he didn't want to get hurt. Is this the same situation that Lamar could wait until week 8 or 9 or 10 or whatever, sign it then and say, okay, I'm here now. I'm ready to go. Give me my money.
He wouldn't get the whole contract. Each week he misses, like his contract, you get a certain amount each week. So he'd get whatever prorated from week 9 or 10 or whenever he reported on to the rest of the season. He sits out, he's 32.4 million. He's not getting. So it's just
not going to get it. Okay.
Yeah, he's not going to get. He's not going to, So he's not going to get paid if he's not playing, if he's not on the active roster and all that. So, yeah, but it's a fair question, Gary. If the next big date in this is July 17th, that's the last possible day for Lamar Jackson to sign a multi-year deal, offer sheet, or contract with either the Ravens or another team. After that, he can only play on a one-year deal. So we're going to see if nothing gets done. Then's going to come the decision. Does he play? Does he report, or does he just not report and willingly just not accept the 32.4 million and just, for lack of better expression, just kind of piss that away? He's not going to get that. So
Yeah.
Look, let's hope we're still not dealing with this in mid-July, but the way this has gone, I would think the betting money would be on us still talking about this in mid-July.
I bet they have the odds up on FanDuel or
Oh, yeah.
DraftKings right now. Hey, I want
Yeah.
to take 1 second because we don't do this often enough when you're joining us. Jeff writes for theathletic.com. I don't know if it's always stated that way, but if you want to read one of the best football writers around, he does a remarkable job at theathletic.com if you're a subscriber. And I think the subscription now is it like 75 this year, Jeff?
Well, I mean, we have a deal right now. It's $1 per month for 12 months. So you can
Oh, wow.
for new subscribers, you could get a subscription for $12 for a year. So it's a good time, opening day. NCAA Final Fours coming up. There's NBA playoffs are starting, hockey playoffs are starting. This is an awesome time in sports.
That doesn't seem fair to me.
I know the loyal customers
for the whole year.
I mean, the
And now
loyal
I could have done it for-
customers.
You're worth it, Jeff.
I
I'm
appreciate
kidding,
it,
I'm
Stan.
kidding. I'm kidding. But we'd love to get Jeff some hits. And I'll tell you what, I love the fact that at the end of any story, you, the reader, can judge it as meh, okay, or
Mhm.
excellent. And I really like that. I think it's really great. And
I
Jeff, you
appreciate
do
that, guys.
really terrific work. I don't know if Gary has more Lamar, but I wanted to move on
Sure.
to what this is doing to the ability for Eric DeCosta and Coach Harbaugh and Todd Monken to really plan what this team is going to be like. It's like more than a monkey wrench. It's like a monkey wrench times 20.
Yeah, I don't think you can overplay that angle right now of it, Stan. And you look at it, well, you have to be careful right now what you spend, right? Because you need to save some salary cap space in case someone does come through with a front-loaded offer on Lamar Jackson. You have to maintain the ability to match it and maintain some salary cap flexibility. So that has surely affected their spending and what they've done in free agency. We've already seen how 5 or 6 of their deals or restructures, resignings, pay cuts have included void years, which lower the cap hit and add years to future years, like kicking the can down the road. Never have they used those. They've been blatantly against using those. But I guess, for lack of a better word, and still they're not using those to the fullest. It's they're using those in a minor way, but they're using a lot of them. And that just shows you desperate times call for desperate measures. That's one aspect. Number 2, you need a receiver, right? I mean, everyone and their brother knows that. Who's going to sign here? What receiver worth anything is going to sign here when you don't know who the quarterback's going to be, especially on a 1-year guy? Now, I'm not criticizing Nelson Aguilar. He's had some decent years, former first-round pick, but that's the kind of player you're going to have to look at. And even some of these trade candidates, like DeAndre Hopkins, could be had from Arizona for a draft pick or 2. But they need DeAndre Hopkins to renegotiate the contract, possibly get his contract extended. Is he going to do that for a team where he doesn't know who the quarterback's going to be? It affects so many aspects of their roster, and we haven't even gotten to the fact, Stan, what the heck happens in late July if Lamar Jackson's holding out and not there, and Todd Monken's installing a new offense. So that's surely why they were on the veteran quarterback market and trying to get a guy in like a Baker Mayfield or a Jacoby Brissett. So they had a guy kind of capable of, okay, just get ready for week one, run practices and all that. But, unless they make a move here for a veteran, that's going to fall on Hundley. So yeah, it impacts every bit of it. And I think that's the reason why fans are so frustrated by this, even beyond just the direct ramifications between the Ravens and Lamar.
One last thing for me on this. I don't know how much person-to-person contact you've had with Steve Bisciotti over the years, but do you know him well enough? Is he privately seething at this, or he's tolerant of Lamar's side, just doesn't agree with it?
I can't say I know for a fact. I've heard some stuff, but it's kind of secondhand, and I'm always struggling. But let me answer it in this way, Stan. There's a couple things that have happened along the way where I've said, man, Steve Bisciotti must not be happy. He does not, he does not like the franchise to be embarrassed. He does not like the decision makers to be embarrassed. And we all know that Steve and John Harbaugh are very close, right? And John getting ambushed like he did with that Lamar tweet 5 seconds before he sat down to meet with the media, where he had to answer 36 questions on Lamar's trade request. I have to think Steve Bisciotti was seething. That, I didn't hear, but I know that did not hit some people in the organization right. And I imagine it started at the very top. John and Eric have worked very hard to speak positively about Lamar, to protect him, to fight back on some of the criticisms on him. And they haven't agreed right now. They haven't agreed right now on the amount of money, but they've still been very positive, very protective, and very complimentary about Lamar. They're basically the only people who you're hearing positive quotes from at the moment. So I can't imagine that sat too well. And there have been other instances, but that in particularly hit me as something that, wow, I can't imagine. It's going to be a little bit of a challenge to come back from that, I would say.
Jeff, I've got two questions. I'll get to a couple of the positions in a minute, but you mentioned Todd Monken, okay? Obviously, they weren't happy with what Greg Roman was doing. They let him go. How do they expect the offense to change under Todd Monken?
I think just having the ability to beat a team in a variety of ways, to beat a defense, to get mismatches, to do different things. I mean, one of the things, Gary, that John has said now 2 or 3 times is no huddle. And from talking to people who were involved in interviews, and John interviewed a ton of people for this position. He interviewed college coaches, pro coaches, defensive coordinators, all that. And one of the things I heard often was John was asking a lot about picking up the pace and 2-minute stuff and no huddle and just moving faster as an offense. And, I think that's clearly going to be a focus, just picking up the tempo but obviously they're going to play to their personnel. That's what Todd Monken has done everywhere he's been. If they have a good running team, that's what they're going to do. If they're going to pass, but I do think we're going to see a much more balanced offense capable of challenging defenses in a variety of ways, rather than being kind of, for lack of a better word, a one-trick pony where if you shut down their run, they're going to be in big trouble.
Okay, so shutting down the run versus the pass, that's one thing. Play selection, play execution. What was preventing the Ravens from running a no-huddle offense under Greg Roman? Why couldn't that happen?
I think just a part of their philosophy with grinding down teams, being on long drives. It's just, it just was kind of like not, they did it at times. They had it in their playbook. It was just not something Greg Roman liked. I mean, Greg Roman was big on winning the time of possession and keeping the opposing offense off the field and prolonging these long drives. And, I'd say it worked in 2019 when the Ravens looked like a well-oiled machine. You could talk to Wink Martindale about how much he appreciated the long drives. But when you're not operating with that margin of error, when you're a little mistake prone, you struggle a little bit on third down, it's hard to engineer long drives every time you touch the football. You need to have the ability to strike quickly and to be more of a quick strike team and have the kind of picking up the pace and have the explosive plays in your bag, which we haven't seen them have in the last couple of years.
Final question from me, and I don't know if Stan has anything.
I've got one more. I've got one more for you, Jeff. Go ahead, Gary.
Calais Campbell to the Falcons. I think Ben Powers now to the Broncos. Do the
Yeah.
Ravens have the suitable replacements on this roster, or do they need to look elsewhere?
Yeah, and the other loss was Josh Oliver, the tight end.
Minnesota, yeah.
In one sense, the three positions where they lost guys, I think, are the three positions where I wouldn't call a new addition a must. Could they stand to bring a guy in? Sure. But I think it's more closer to a luxury than it is a necessity. Tight end, they're fine. You have Andrews, you have the two rookies from last year, Calais and Isaiah Likely. Patrick Ricard is used as a tight end in some spots. You're good there. You don't need to do anything in that position. Guard, I think you probably should take a guard at some point. I think you got three guys that could start there. You got Patrick McCary, who we all know, kind of a jack of all trades. You just know what you're getting from him. I think he's better suited as like the sixth offensive lineman just because he's so professional. He's so versatile. He's going to be ready, but he could stand in as a starting guard and you'd feel okay about it. Ben Cleveland, the third-round pick 2 years ago, really it should be his job. That's what, by now they drafted him to be their starting guard. Hasn't happened. He struggled to stay on the field. There's been some injuries. There's been a frustration with him. That's clear. He's not going to get the job handed to him. But if he has a breakthrough here this summer, it would be a big thing for them because this should be his job by now. Then you got a guy in John Simpson who they signed late last year, and he started, I think, over 20 games with the Raiders over the last 3 years. A little raw, but there's enough there. The Ravens really like their offensive line coach, Joe Sanders. He's a guy to watch. I think he could challenge for the job, but they need to bring in another, probably in the draft, a day 3 kind of guard to develop. And then the other positions, Calais Campbell, right now they're pretty much too deep at all the defensive line spots with Matabike and Broderick Washington and Travis Jones and Pierce is back and they got Brent Urban. So that's 5 guys right there. They got a guy named Rashad Nichols who was on the practice squad last year. They like, again, probably a position where you draft one, but I don't think you go in this draft saying we need to find a starter to replace Calais Campbell. I think there's enough there where they should have a pretty good defensive line rotation without adding a major piece to that mix.
Jeff, we really appreciate your being on. My final question for you is, and you sort of anticipated a little bit by talking about the draft, who they might. Do you see any way, shape, or form? The draft has been, for the first time ever, kind of obliterated by the Lamar talk. We haven't focused on it. Do you see any way Eric can pull off some type of unique surprise there that might lessen this whole blow that the team looks like they may have to take?
Yeah, it's a great question, Stan, and I feel I've never seen so many. I've never experienced here, the lack of passion and excitement about the draft since I've been covering the team, and that dates back to over about a decade now, since like 2011. So, I'd be surprised if they only had 5 picks, right? I think they'll finish. They'll probably have more than that, whether it's trading back and around. But it's going to be tough. It really is. Like you look like who's the guy, maybe like last year we saw them get a surprise extra first rounder with Marquise Brown. Is there a guy on the team they could trade? And maybe it's not a first rounder, but they can get another day 2 pick. Patrick Queen, maybe it's the same kind of mold as Marquise Brown. He's heading into that, they got like a month after the draft. They have to decide on the 5th, it's May 1st, they have to decide on his 5th year option. So, it would be tough to pay both Queen and Roquan. So do they move Queen a year earlier than expected just because they'll open up some money and they feel like they need the draft picks? That could be a move. But yeah, first of all, this isn't a very exciting draft class to begin with, especially, I mean, everybody's dying to get a first round receiver. You know, there's no Jamar Chases in this class, or, you know, there's no like, there probably won't even be a top 10, 12 receiver. You know, most of the top receivers probably won't start coming off the board until after pick 12 or so. So it's going to be really tough. They're in a really tough spot now with very little cap space and limited draft picks to make meaningful additions. And I keep saying to people, man, he has to have something up his sleeve, doesn't he? Whether you start trading, you know, we talked about it already. It looks like they could have at least an extra 4th round comp pick for Ben Powers. So do you dip into that 2024 picks to try to help you this year to plug immediate holes? I think that's all stuff that's being discussed right now. Because I can't see them coming out with just 5 picks in this draft.
All right. Jeff Zrebiec of theathletic.com. And again, they've got a special on right now for new subscribers, $1 a month for a full year at theathletic.com. We always appreciate your insights. We try not to bug you too often, but I'm hoping we can talk to you around August 1st when all this is out on the field, whatever.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Sounds good. You guys are awesome. Always enjoy dealing with you. You're great for Baltimore, great people. So always enjoy, talking to you guys, talking some football, baseball, whatever. So take care.
O's.
Take it easy. Yeah.
Go
1-0.
O's.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Take care, guys.
Yep.
All right. We're 1-0. We thank Jeff Zrebiec of theathletic.com. All right. We thank Gary Stein. And Gary, we've got an interesting time we're in right now, aren't we, buddy?
You mean, yeah, I mean, with this whole Lamar thing, but
yeah,
I mean, more than that, you know, the Orioles got off to a great start today. NCAA Final Four coming up. This is one of the greatest times of sports for the year. Absolutely.
All right. Garrett, just got one question. Jeff, you don't have to hang for this.
Okay.
You're welcome to say goodbye.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Gary, you got pretty friendly with Ryan Odom over his couple of years at UMBC. And it's funny, they had a good year this year. They actually won a game in the tournament, I believe, right? Didn't they win one game this year?
No, they were beaten in the first round.
They were beaten in the first, but I said to you about 10 days ago, I said, hey, you know Ryan pretty well. Do you mind texting him? I think he'll enjoy reminiscing about this season, what he's building there in Utah State. And within 3 days, he's no longer at Utah State. He's at VCU because of one move out of Penn State. State hired VCU's coach, and I think VCU got a great fit hiring Ryan Odom.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a homecoming basically for Ryan. You know, He grew up in that area. His dad, obviously, Dave Odom, coach. I think it's great, and like you say, the coaching carousel just whipped up real fast.
Yep.
You know, Penn State going to Notre Dame, VCU going to Penn State, and Ryan coming back to VCU. I think it's a great fit. It's probably the best school that he was linked to at the time, including USF and George Mason. They're ready-made. They're tournament ready. They're conference champs. I mean, this is a great situation, and he can make it even better. And it'll be interesting to see. And I'm not pushing this on anybody, but, you know, it'll be interesting to see how successful he is there and how long he stays there, because I think he's got upwards to go from there, you know. So
there's
very
no question
interesting career for him.
He's got ups to go there, but from there. But I could see him settling in. Got a young family.
It'll be a few years, I believe.
5 years there at VCU, 4 or 5 years. But then again, when they start throwing the big money at you, it's really hard to turn it down. Right, Gary? I know you make plenty of money, you know.
Plenty of money. But I tell you what, though, he's in the heart of the ACC, and I think the ACC is in his heart. Okay, so it's a very interesting geographic fit for him there at VCU.
Yeah, and Jim Larinaga, with all due respect to the job Jim does, Jim's not going to be coaching that much longer, you know. So just a thought to keep an eye on that job. Gary, always a pleasure. Great insights from Jeff Zrebiec. We apologize for any technical difficulties you may have experienced. And we will be back. I'll be back Monday night with Ross Grimsley. Don't know a guest yet. Next Thursday, we don't know a guest yet, but it'll be somebody who's a newsmaker in the world of sports. Gary Stein.
Got it.
I'm Stan the Fan, and we thank our friends at the Costas Inn for